I thought the governor's speech was a very powerful recap of what a democratically controlled legislature along with a democratic governor can deliver for Minnesota. And I thought he also did a very good job of laying out his priorities in the future, and I think his potential investments in education, in transportation, job creation, and economic development are the values that Minnesotans share with him. So I look forward to working with him going forward.
I would agree with Senator Bakk. What Governor Dayton focused on is exactly what Minnesotans want us to focus on, which are those bread and butter issues. Making sure our kids are in a place where they can learn and succeed in the future, making sure that all Minnesotans have a chance to get a job, and a job that's going to actually allow them to raise a family, and investments in infrastructure around the state that are going to continue to allow build a platform for our economy to continue to expand in the future. And I think, again, those are exactly the values that, as the Governor Dayton said at the end, that really unify us, that make us the things that we share together as Minnesotans. So I really appreciate the vision he laid out, and I look forward to continuing to work with him to make that vision a reality.
Governor Dayton delivered an optimistic speech that would make Minnesotans proud, and I think Minnesotans are feeling that same optimism across the state of Minnesota. And rather than listening to the doom and gloom that we're sometimes hearing coming out of this legislature, I am happy that we are joining Governor Dayton in talking about the progress that we're making for the state of Minnesota. And I'm really excited to hear him talk about our future, from transportation to all-day, everyday K, which is going to go into effect this fall, and to universal pre-K. He is talking about a future where Minnesotans from the middle class out are going to be prosperous and have economic opportunity and security for the future. And I'm really delighted to be able to join him tonight in focusing on our future. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
You want to say something?
Senator Hayden and I just wanted to add a couple comments. First, I'll start by saying that I think the governor not only laid out a clear vision for Minnesota, but also did a great job tonight of highlighting the progress we've made. Whether it means we've paid back our schools completely or put additional funding into all-day kindergarten to make all-day kindergarten available for all Minnesotans, or investing in our higher educational institutions. He laid out very clearly, I think, the progress we've made over the past years and what we'll continue to work for in the state legislature. Thank you.
Senator Bakk, we haven't seen the Senate bonding bill yet. Is it going to be a $1.2 billion bill like the governor wants?
Well, I'm still hopeful. I've had, certainly the Speaker and I have had conversations about the size of the capital investment bill. I've had conversations with Representative Daudt and with Senator Hann. Tried to offer up some scenarios under which we might reach a larger number, but we don't have that fully resolved yet.
When's it coming down?
You would have to ask Senator Stump. I spent some time with him today talking about what we think is going to be the cash portion of it, and I think it maybe didn't meet with his expectations, so I think he's reworking the numbers.
What numbers are you looking for?
I don't think we know yet. We're still discussing that with the House. We're trying to get in a position where we can be as close as we can to the House so that we can have a very timely conclusion to the session.
You want more than $850?
I think between bonding and cash, I think getting something closer to the governor, the number that the governor recommended tonight is the right conclusion for Minnesota.
Which proposal specifically did you throw out to the Republicans to get their support?
I don't think we don't comment on private negotiations that go on between us or that happen in our caucus rooms.
Thank you, guys. Senator, you'll be here in 2015, we know. The governor had two specific items that he said he wants addressed in 2015. Do you agree with that?
I agree with the governor's commitment to education and workforce development that happens through education, and I absolutely agree that investments in Minnesota's transportation infrastructure are at a critical point in this state. I have been talking with some of the state's largest CEOs in the last month to see if we can put a strong effort together at the Capitol next year from the business community and from the labor community to move a transportation package forward.
Here come Republicans.
Right over us. Ledge here. Let's be careful here. Do you have any questions, or did you want to? Pardon me? They didn't do almanac.
Start with just a quick reaction, if you would.
Well, it was very long, and to hear the governor talk about this, it sounds like that the source of all prosperity and all good things comes from Democrat majorities in the government. And of course, we know that's not true. The hardworking people of this state do a lot, and what we really need to do is adopt the policies in taxation and regulation that allow people to thrive, allow businesses to grow. In fact, this administration, this governor has been very, very bad on business and on creating job opportunities for the people of this state. And I think that's a huge problem. So I think going forward, what we need to do is continue to look very hard at how much money we're going to spend. We shouldn't overspend the economy, and we ought to look at our tax policies. We know that many of those tax policies have been very detrimental. We repealed some of those that were enacted last year, this year. We need to take a hard look at that in the future. So it's a very long speech, kind of a campaign speech, I guess, because we spent a lot of time talking about next year, but we don't know who's going to be the governor next year. But we think there are better things to do than put a lot of money into government programs and tell the people of this state that they can't be successful without government doing things for them. We need to free up the people of the state to do the good things for themselves.
I think one of the things that we learned tonight is the governor's very good at taking credit, but not very good at taking responsibility. There's a lot of policies that have been passed. One of the largest spending increases in, actually the largest spending increase in state history, one of the largest tax increases in state history, putting in place tax policies that everybody knows are going to drive jobs out of the state of Minnesota, and frankly at a time when middle-class Minnesotans, as he even admitted, are struggling in Minnesota. And the policies the Democrats have put in place aren't going to help those middle-class Minnesotans. They're going to make it even more difficult by driving jobs that Minnesotans so desperately want and need out of the state of Minnesota.
Is unity of purpose that he's talked about?
Is unity of purpose? Well, I think he talked about some things that I believe all Minnesotans share in. We all want a great state. We all want great opportunities. I think the real question is, do we get that by overtaxing the economy and by imposing a lot of regulations and intrusion to people's lives? I don't think that is the right thing. I think most people want to be free to do the things that are best for their families, and I think that the policies we've seen enacted seem to run counter to that. We just can't have such a strong anti-business flavor to government and then expect the economy to grow. I don't think you can say that by taxing the economy even stronger and bringing the money to St. Paul and say that that's how you create growth. I've never seen that happen anywhere in the world.
Will you accept $1.2 billion bonding?
No.
What proposal specifically?
We have an agreement with the majority in the Senate and with the Speaker in the House that $850 is the bonding bill. We talked about $1 billion for the biennium last year. We typically don't do bonding in a budget year, but we agreed to do that last year, and part of that agreement was that we were going to hold ourselves to $1 billion. We think that agreement is still good.
The governor talked a lot about some new education initiatives tonight. Third and fourth grade preschool by 2018 and a reform of how we test students in schools. Your reaction to that?
I think that we need to have sufficient testing to know that the investment that we're making in education is working. There's been some retreat, frankly, on that, we've seen in the legislature. But those things are prospective, and I think what we have to get to the point of recognizing that good intentions and more money aren't enough. That's not what solves the problem that we have in education. We've got to do things to free up the creativity of local school districts and parents, and you don't do that by increasing the burdens on regulations here in St. Paul.
I think the actions don't match the words on that particular issue. I know within the last year and a half here, Democrats have repealed the graduation standards tests, and now tonight the governor takes credit for a higher graduation rate. But nobody has gotten a better education because they did that. And I think the important thing here is we've got the best teachers in the country. We need to push our students harder and expect more of them, and we know they can accomplish it.
The governor said an $850 bonding bill won't accommodate the Lewis and Clark project. What do you think of that?
That's just not true. I think there's plenty of room in an 850 bonding limit to do all the things that we really need to get done. I think trying to find ways to provide good drinking water to the people of southwest Minnesota, that's a much better project than trying to take water and turn it into snow up in northern Minnesota. So we can do that in an 850 limit.
Yeah, I think on that same line, Democrats' proposal includes a building in St. Paul for a museum that literally spends more money on that one building than they're spending on all roads and bridges all across the state of Minnesota. So unfortunately, the Democrats' priorities are misplaced, and we can agree that that water project is very important. In fact, it's in, I think, completely Republican districts, so we very strongly support that. We know the Democrats strongly support it, but unfortunately, they're not willing to prioritize. They want to spend $50 million on a museum instead of putting this money into the water project that we know this part of Minnesota desperately wants and needs.
And the one project that's really a high priority that the governor didn't talk about was the new $90 million office building for the Senate across the street. That was not mentioned. I think if we can say we're going to spend that, we can certainly fit things like this water project into an 850 bonding limit. That's plenty of money. We can do it.
Can you give us some insight into what proposals Democrats are putting out there to try and get you above $1 billion?
I have not seen the proposal from the Senate. I do not know what is in their bonding bill and its specificity. I don't know.
And they have not made specific offers to us on specifics of what they might be willing to trade for. And we know that this is how Democrats operate. We want to come to the table and work with them to form a bill that really can get broad bipartisan support. We want to work together with them. We don't want to negotiate like they did with minimum wage in the Senate office building. Unfortunately, I think that's what Minnesotans really don't like about the way St. Paul operates. But unfortunately, that's how Democrats have chose to operate this session. And I think the Senate office building is the brightest example of what's wrong with St. Paul and what's wrong with single-party control with Democrats running everything in Minnesota.
Thanks.
Best way to get out.